My name is Emily. I was working full-time, paying my bills, and somehow my paycheck was never really mine. My sister said she was helping by managing my money. She wasn't stealing in the way people expect. If you've ever had family cross a financial line, tell me your story in the comments. Laura kept my paycheck account so she could help manage my spending. It was lunch hour at the office in Austin, the kind where half the team ate at their desks and pretended not to. Payroll reports were closed, emails cleared, and the habit kicked in. Phone out, bank app open, quick check before reheating soup. The deposit notification was there. The balance was not. At first it looked like lag. The app spun, refreshed, stayed wrong. The number hadn't moved. A coworker laughed somewhere behind me. I checked again, then opened the transaction detail. Paid. Completed. Sent. The company fridge hummed beside me, a printed policy taped to its door about labeled lunches. Someone asked if the microwave was free. A calendar alert blinked for a meeting I would skip. None of it mattered. The app stayed wrong, stubborn as a door that won't open, and the number that should have been there refused to appear. I closed it, reopened it, stared until the screen dimmed. Just not to my account. A call went out to Laura without much thought. She answered on the second ring. "I already told you," she said, calm, like this was about groceries. "Laura, my paycheck didn't hit." "Because I moved it. It's cleaner this way." An image came through while she talked, a screenshot of a checking account, her name at the top, a balance that made my stomach pause. "That's the shared account for you," she said. "Shared how?" "I manage it. You hate budgeting." The questions stayed short. So did the answers. No shouting, no apologies, just a steady voice skipping details. Another screenshot followed, this one showing the transfer time. "Wait," I said. "That was last month," she replied. "Too fast. I changed it then." The words landed wrong. Nothing had been changed last month. The email said today. The timestamp was off by an hour, not like the others. It sat there, small and wrong. "Why didn't you tell me?" "You were stressed," she said. "This helps." She mentioned rent next, the due date, the late fee I'd paid once and never again. The way she said it made it sound like a reminder, not surveillance. Maybe it was a system error. That idea lasted a few seconds. The memory of another late deposit surfaced, brushed aside at the time, a pattern I hadn't named. "I need it back," I said. "Don't make this complicated," Laura said. "I'm handling it." The call ended without goodbye. On the app, a banner read, "Your funds are secure," right under an account I couldn't access. It felt efficient, thoughtful even. By the next morning, the story had already moved without me. A text from my mother came first. Laura told me what's going on. Another followed before there was time to answer. "She's just trying to help you, you know that." The word help sat there, finished and confident. Nothing else was asked. No one wanted details. At work, a meeting request from HR waited on the calendar. Not urgent, no subject line, just my name and a 15-minute block 2 days out. The response button stayed gray until it was clicked. The confirmation came back with a cheerful auto-reply about response times. Between emails, Laura called Mom. That part came later, pieced together through phrasing and pauses. According to Laura, money stressed me out. According to Laura, this wasn't the first time I'd panicked. According to Laura, she'd stepped in before things got messy. At lunch, another text buzzed in. "Your sister has always been responsible," Mom wrote. "Let her handle it." No one asked why the account wasn't in my name. HR's office smelled faintly like coffee and printer toner. The rep smiled, nodded, and opened a checklist. Each step took a minute to explain and several days to process. "So you're saying your direct deposit changed?" she asked. "Yes." "And you didn't submit the form?" "No." Keys clicked. A pause followed. "Well," she said, "it happens sometimes." The phrase landed light, almost friendly. No alarm bell, no raised eyebrow. A printer started somewhere down the hall. "We'll need to verify authorization," she continued. "That can take a bit." "How long?" "Depends." The meeting ended with a pamphlet and a reminder to watch email for updates. Outside, the sun made the parking lot feel too bright for the conversation that had just happened. The phone buzzed again. Laura. "Mom's worried." Another message arrived before the first was opened. "Everyone agrees this is for the best." At a cafe near the office, Marcus slid into the chair across from mine, coffee already in hand. "You look busy," he said. "My paycheck moved." "To where?" "My sister." He blinked once. "Why?" "She says I'm bad with money." "Are you?" "No." Marcus nodded. Simple as that. "Then don't argue," he said. "Collect paper." "What paper?" "Statements, emails, dates, anything with time on it." The advice wasn't dramatic. No rallying speech, no outrage, just process. Back at my desk, an email from HR arrived with an attachment. Authorization form. The name at the bottom wasn't mine. It was close enough to look intentional. A follow-up line sat underneath. "This appears valid." The laugh that escaped was short and unplanned. Valid had never felt so flexible. Laura texted again. "HR called me too." Another. I explained everything. The pressure built sideways, not loud, just constant. A family group chat pinged to life. Messages scrolled past about dinner plans and weather, the conversation carefully avoiding the topic that sat between every line. When I replied to Mom, the answer came fast. "You're overreacting." By the end of the day, HR sent one more note. Payroll cutoff is in 10 days. 10 days until the next deposit. 10 days before the same thing happened again. The message included a calendar attachment. It accepted with one click. The date appeared clean and final, like it had always belonged there. Laura's texts turned shorter. "Please stop this. You're making it worse." The bank branch on the Mar opened at 9. By 9:10, a numbered slip rested in my hand, and a chair creaked as I sat down. The request was simple. Copies of everything tied to my name. Account history, changes, authorizations. The teller nodded and disappeared behind a glass door without asking why. A few minutes later, a folder slid across the desk. "This will take a bit," she said. "That's fine." Pages stacked up quickly. Dates, amounts, small shifts that hadn't meant anything on their own. Then one page stopped the motion. The header read Authorization Form. My name was typed clean at the top. The signature at the bottom looked like mine, if someone had practiced. It leaned the right way. It used the right letters. The curve on the E was just a little sharper than usual. "Is that your signature?" the teller asked. "It's close," I said. "Close counts," she replied, already turning the page. The date on the form landed hard. Last month. The same window Laura had mentioned on the phone, tossed out like an afterthought. The email timestamps from payroll made sense now. The confidence. The timing. A manager joined us, polite and careful. "Our records show the change was processed," she said. "By me?" "No," she said, "not directly." The words were delivered gently, as if softness changed facts. A phone vibrated in my pocket before the next question could land. Laura's name filled the screen. The call waited until the meeting ended. The manager explained next steps, voice even, hands folded. A line about protecting all parties involved came with an apologetic smile. In the parking lot, the call was returned. "What are you doing?" Laura asked. "I'm getting copies," I said. "You went to the bank?" "Yes." Her breath hit the line hard. "Are you really going to turn this into a legal thing?" she said. "I'm asking questions." "About family." The word carried weight like it always had. "This didn't have to be a problem," she added. "It wasn't," I said, "until it was." Silence stretched long enough to notice. "If you lock anything," Laura said, "you're going to freeze everything." The call ended without goodbye. Back inside, the request changed. Temporary lock. Nothing permanent. Just enough to stop movement until answers lined up. The manager nodded again, slower this time. "That will pause incoming deposits," she said. "I know." Keys clicked, a form printed. Another signature line waited, this one clean and familiar. "We're sorry for the inconvenience," she said. "We're protecting all parties involved." The phrase landed twice in one day, polished smooth by repetition. HR called before the engine started. "Payroll flagged an issue," the rep said. "What kind?" "Verification." The word had become popular. "Your next check may be held until this clears," she added. "Okay." There was a pause, the kind that waited for protest. "We'll need documentation," she said. "I'm working on it." Calls stacked up as the drive home began. Mom first, then Dad, then a cousin who never texted. The phone stayed face down. At a red light, the screen lit again. Laura's name, then Mom's, then Laura's again. Each vibration felt measured, coordinated. The light changed, the car moved. At home, the folder opened across the table. The authorization form sat on top, edges too neat. The signature stared back, familiar enough to fool a system, wrong enough to be seen once it mattered. An email from HR followed, subject line neutral. "Due to ongoing verification, funds will be temporarily held." Another message arrived beneath it, automated and cheerful. "Thank you for your patience." The phone vibrated again, relentless now, numbers blurring together. It stayed unanswered on the table while the documents were stacked, the authorization form placed carefully on top, and the screen continued to light up, call after call, as the folder closed. The paycheck didn't come. No alert, no deposit line waiting to clear. Just an email from HR sent at 8:12 a.m., written in the same tone they used for system updates and holiday schedules. "Due to ongoing verification, your payment is temporarily on hold." That was it. No apology, no timeline. At work, nothing changed on the surface. Meetings happened, deadlines moved forward. A manager asked if I could stay late that week. The answer came out steady. Yes. On my phone, Laura moved faster. She didn't call me first. She called everyone else. By noon, messages started landing from relatives who usually waited for birthdays to reach out. "Why are you doing this to your sister? She's just trying to help. You always make things harder than they need to be." Someone sent a voice memo instead of a text. A cousin I barely spoke to anymore, chosen carefully because she sounded calm. "Laura's upset," she said. "She asked me to talk to you. She thinks you should drop the complaint before it goes too far." The word complaint followed me all day, dressed up as concern. In the afternoon, a longer email arrived from the bank, more formal this time, more names on the signature line. The authorization form included a witness, a family name. That detail had been easy to miss before, just a line at the bottom, typed small, already validated. It changed everything. Undoing it now meant pulling another person into the process, someone who would swear they'd seen me sign. The phone rang again. "Are you happy now?" Laura asked. "I haven't gotten paid," I said. "That's on you. You asked them to hold it? You forced their hand." Her voice stayed controlled, like she was explaining consequences to a child. "Everyone thinks you're spiraling," she added. "You're making yourself look unstable." Another call came in while she talked. I didn't check who it was. "You need to stop," she said. "This is getting serious." At a cafe near the office, Marcus listened without interrupting. The story had gained weight since the last time. "She always gets ahead of you," he said when it ended. "How?" "She frames it as help. By the time you react, she's already set the terms." No plan followed, no fix, just the pattern laid out plain. Back home, the rent portal opened on the laptop. The number glowed red now. Late fee added automatically. A timer counted down to the next charge. The phone kept lighting up. Laura, Mom, and Aunt. Each message asking for calm. Each one pushing the same direction. "This doesn't need outsiders. Just talk to her. You're embarrassing the family." An explanation took shape in the Notes app. It grew sentence by sentence, careful and factual. Dates, screenshots, lines copied from emails. It looked solid. When it was sent to Mom, the reply came back almost immediately. "This is exactly what I mean," she wrote. You're overcomplicating it." The words hit harder than anything else that day. Another email from HR arrived before dinner. More verification needed. No movement until the bank resolved their side. The account balance stayed frozen. The calendar reminder blinked. 3 days until another fee. Laura called again. This time, the tone shifted. "You know Uncle Dan signed as a witness," she said. "He remembers." The implication hung there. "You really want to put him in the middle?" she asked. The call ended without waiting for an answer. On the table, the folder lay open. Bank forms on one side, family messages on the other. Everything tied together by names that weren't supposed to matter. The Notes app reopened. The explanation waited, polished and ready. It would take one tap to send it again, to another person, and another after that. The message was deleted instead. The laptop shifted position. A browser opened. New checking account. Personal. Solo. Information filled itself in from memory. Address. Employer. Routing numbers that hadn't changed in years. A verification text came through. Then another call. The apartment looked normal until the laptop came out. Bills stacked themselves across the screen in messages had slowed, not stopped. That was worse. It meant everyone had said what they needed to say. This was the first moment since it started that no one else was talking. The problem wasn't that Laura took control. That part was obvious now. The harder piece sat earlier, buried under convenience and habit. Handing her the account had felt easier than explaining why I wanted it back. The first time she offered, it sounded reasonable. She was older. She'd handled family stuff before. There was always some bill, some deadline she already knew about. Saying yes avoided the awkwardness of saying no. Later, when questions came up, the answers followed quickly. "You're busy. You don't like this stuff. I'm just helping." Those explanations stuck because they let things stay smooth. No argument, no tension at dinner, no uncomfortable phone calls. Believing she meant well cost less in the moment than pushing back. The signs were there. Deposits arriving later than expected. Balances that required asking. Deadlines she somehow knew before I mentioned them. Each one was small enough to ignore on its own. Family didn't need boundaries. That was the rule I'd been using without realizing it. Once the account moved, the rule kept working against me. Every question became proof of instability. Every request for clarity looked like drama. That pattern didn't break until the money stopped. Marcus came by that evening with takeout. They don't care who's related to who. They care about timestamps and access. That was the missing piece. Not another explanation, not another message to the family thread. Paper. Not a lot of it, just the kind that refused to bend. The risk was clear. Taking this route meant accepting that the fallout wouldn't be shared evenly. Laura would call it betrayal. Family would choose sides. Some of them already had. Waiting for approval hadn't worked. Waiting for fairness wouldn't either. The folder came back out. Bank forms first. The authorization page sat on top, signature still wrong in the same quiet way. Under it went the payroll emails, timestamps highlighted. HR confirmations followed, each one neutral, each one careful with language. Screenshots printed next. App notifications. Transfer records. Nothing dramatic, just consistent. A new email arrived while the printer ran. "Laura, you're really doing this?" No question mark. Another followed. "I never thought you'd go this far." The phone went back down. Each document slid into place, aligned and labeled. It felt methodical, not emotional. That mattered. The process didn't erase the fear, it organized it. Keys jingled as the folder closed. The stack felt heavier than paper should. On the counter, the laptop chimed softly. A confirmation from the bank about access logs being prepared. A note from HR acknowledging receipt of documents. Steps, finally moving forward. The email arrived while the printer was still warm. It wasn't dramatic, just a subject line that read, "Additional account review." No exclamation point, no warning language. The attachment opened into a list I didn't recognize at first. Account numbers, partially masked. One of them looked familiar enough to make my stomach tighten. Savings. Not the checking account tied to payroll. The savings account I'd opened years ago and barely touched. The one that was supposed to sit there quietly and do nothing. Laura's name appeared under Authorized Users. That part took a second to register. The line was clean. Approved. Dated. Another click opened transaction history. Small transfers spaced out. Nothing flashy. Enough to avoid attention. Utilities. A car payment. A hotel charge in a city I hadn't visited. None of it had been mentioned. None of it had asked. The picture finally made sense. The reason Laura always knew when something was due. The reason deadlines came up in conversation before I brought them up. The way she talked about money like it was a shared calendar. She wasn't guessing. She was watching. The phrase from the phone call came back, suddenly precise. I changed it last month. That wasn't a slip. That was the start. A voicemail followed before the file could be closed. Laura's voice sounded different this time. Controlled, but thin. I didn't think you'd dig like this, she said. I've already filed a complaint. Another email landed before the message finished playing. Bank letterhead, formal language. Due to a family dispute, certain records are temporarily restricted pending review. Restricted meant paused. Paused meant some of what I'd gathered couldn't move forward yet. Laura had gone first. The complaint framed the situation cleanly. Concern for my well-being, financial stress, erratic behavior, a request to maintain current account access until things were resolved. It was written carefully, no accusations, just enough to stall. HR followed an hour later. We've been notified of a dispute, the rep wrote. Payroll will remain on hold until we receive clearance. Momentum shifted, slow but definite. The savings account stayed open. The checking account stayed frozen. Everything waited. A call from Laura came in and went unanswered. Another followed. Then a text. This didn't have to get ugly. The word ugly sat wrong. Nothing about it had been loud. It had been planned. Marcus read the messages without comment. She's protecting her position, he said. What position? The one where she controls the flow. That part landed clean. It wasn't about helping anymore. It was about access, about keeping the role she'd built without being asked to justify it. The complaint changed the board, not permanently, but long enough to force a pause. The family thread lit up again, quieter than before. Fewer people, more careful language. Let the bank handle it. Everyone's stressed. No one asked why Laura was on the savings account. The bank sent another note that afternoon, neutral, procedural. A resolution meeting has been scheduled. A date, a time, names listed beneath it. Laura's first, mine second. The folder on the table felt smaller now, not lighter. Some pieces had been pushed out of reach. Others were still solid. Nothing here suggested panic, just scale. This wasn't one account. It was a system. The savings statements printed anyway, even if they couldn't be submitted yet. Each page joined the stack. Patterns emerged when everything was laid flat. Transfers lined up with paydays. Expenses matched Laura's schedule, not mine. The position she'd taken required maintenance. Money made that possible. Another voicemail came through, shorter this time. You're putting everyone through this, Laura said. The phrasing was familiar. Responsibility turned outward. The email with the meeting details stayed open on the screen. A confirmation button waited at the bottom. Calendar invite attached. Accepting it didn't feel like escalation. It felt like arrival. The phone buzzed again. Mom this time. No message, just the missed call. The screen dimmed. The email remained. Cursor moved. The confirmation clicked. A reply appeared almost immediately. Thank you. Please bring all relevant documentation. The meeting title sat at the top of the calendar. Plain and final. Account Access Review. The conference room at the bank wasn't big enough for what everyone brought into it. Laura arrived first, already talking, already explaining something to the woman from legal. Mom sat beside her, hands folded, eyes moving between faces like she was counting exits. The banker recognized me from before and nodded once, neutral. A folder went on the table, not opened yet. The meeting started the way these things always do, with ground rules and reminders about professionalism. Everyone agreed quickly. No one wanted to look unreasonable. When it was my turn, the folder opened. "This is a log of account access," I said. "It shows when changes were made and from where." Pages slid across the table, lined up in order, dates highlighted, times circled. Laura leaned back. "I had permission," she said. "She asked me to help." No one interrupted her. The next document moved forward. "This is the authorization form," I said. "It includes a signature." Laura nodded, confident. "She was overwhelmed," she said. "I signed for her. She knew." The banker looked at the page, then at the screen beside her. "We ran a comparison," she said. "Signature and access point." Her finger tapped once. "The IP address doesn't match Emily's known devices." Laura's mouth opened, then closed. "It was her laptop," she said. "She let me use it." The banker didn't respond. She clicked again. "The login location was different," she said. "Different network, different device." Another page slid out, a final one. "This shows when the savings account access was added," I said, "and the transaction history that followed." Mom shifted in her chair. Laura's voice came sharper. "That money was family money," she said. "I needed it." The room went still. The legal rep cleared her throat. "For clarity," she said, "the account is solely in Emily's name." Laura shook her head. "You're making this sound criminal," she said. The banker didn't look up. "The change was unauthorized," she said, reading from the screen. "That's the classification." The words sounded flat, mechanical, like they belonged to a printer instead of a person. Unauthorized change. The decision didn't take long after that. "All prior authorizations will be revoked," the banker said. "Access will be restored to the primary account holder." Forms appeared. Pens followed. Laura stood. "You can't just do this," she said. "She's my sister." The legal rep gestured toward the door. "We'll need to speak with you separately," she said. Laura looked at Mom, waiting for something. It didn't come. She walked out without another word. The room felt lighter, not relieved, just less crowded. A final form waited in front of me. Name, date, signature. The pen moved steadily. When the last line was signed, the banker smiled, polite and practiced. "You'll visit confirmation shortly," she said. The door behind me opened. "Emily!" Laura's voice hit my back as the pen lifted from the paper. The confirmation arrived before I reached the parking lot. No subject line that suggested drama, just a standard notice from the bank, time-stamped and clean. "Thank you for your patience." The message listed what had already happened. All authorizations removed, access limited to the primary account holder, a new login issued. No mention of family, no mention of intent, just outcomes. Laura didn't call again that day. At home, the silence around her felt different from before. Not heavy, finished. The family group chat went quiet too, not abruptly, but carefully. Messages about dinner plans never restarted. No one asked Laura to check anything. No one forwarded a bill for advice. When Mom finally called, the conversation stayed short. "We wish this hadn't gone this far," she said. "I know." Nothing followed. No apology. No defense. The call ended the way it started, factual and contained. The next morning, HR confirmed payroll access had been restored. The held deposit would process with the next run. No commentary, no follow-up questions. A new email from the bank landed an hour later. Confirmation number. Steps completed. The same closing line as before. It was saved without rereading. The folder it went into was labeled Resolved. That felt accurate. Passwords came next. Banking, payroll, email, anything that had once been shared casually. Each change took less time than expected, security questions answered in ways no one else could guess. A new account followed. Personal, single name, no linked access. The setup screen asked if anyone else should be added. No. The savings account transferred over once the freeze lifted. The balance looked different now that it wasn't being watched from the other side. Laura's message came late that night. It stayed unopened. Dinner happened at the kitchen counter, standing up, plate set down wherever it fit. The apartment felt smaller without the constant checking of the phone. Not empty, just unoccupied by other people's expectations. The bank folder moved from the table to the drawer under the sink, the one reserved for documents meant to stay but not be seen. It slid in beside old lease agreements and expired warranties. The drawer closed with a soft click. The phone vibrated again. One unread message. The screen lit the room for a moment, Laura's name clear against the dark. The light switch flipped off before the notification could fade on its own.